The X-Men movies nearly featured some very familiar faces, many of whom later appeared in Marvel projects. The X-Men franchise helped redefine the superhero genre, paving the way for the modern Marvel movie boom. Interestingly, some major superhero movie actors came to join the X-Men universe long before they found fame in other comic book roles. The X-Men movies launched a cinematic universe that ultimately spanned decades, beginning with X-Men 2000 through to Logan, Dark Phoenix, and Deadpool 2. Throughout these, numerous recognizable faces almost played some of Marvel's greatest mutants. From future Avengers to Netflix's Defenders, some surprising stars were considered for mutant roles, often turning them down or losing out due to behind-the-scenes changes. Angela Bassett was the first choice to play Storm. Bassett ultimately played Queen Ramonda in Black Panther, before Halle Berry donned the cape as Storm. X-Men screenwriter David Hayter revealed that Angela Bassett was the original choice to play the weather-controlling mutant. In fact, according to The Hollywood Reporter, Bassett was so firmly in mind that she was essentially considered a lock for the role. The casting would have been perfect. Bassett boasts a very distinctive delivery style and a commanding, almost severe presence. These are perfect traits for embodying the imposing Storm. Bassett had already established herself with powerful roles in films like What's Love Got to Do with It and Strange Days, and her authoritative screen presence would have brought gravitas to Storm. Unfortunately, negotiations didn't work out, and Fox ultimately cast Berry, whose take on the character spanned 4 main films. Bassett would ultimately find superhero success as Queen Ramonda in the Black Panther films. Had she accepted the X-Men role, her MCU journey might never have happened. Yet, Bassett continues to be a highly favored choice among fans for the role of Storm in the MCU. 7. Charlize Theron ultimately played Clea in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Long before becoming a sci-fi action icon in Mad Max, Fury Road, and The Old Guard, Charlize Theron was offered the role of Jean Grey in the original X-Men trilogy. Director Bryan Singer offered Theron the part, but Theron declined. This left the door open for Famke Janssen to step into the role. Jean Grey's arc from telepathic mutant to the cosmic Dark Phoenix became one of the trilogy's central storylines. Theron's intense screen presence would have offered a much different portrayal. While it's unclear why she declined, the timing may have conflicted with other career moves in the early 2000s. Theron eventually joined the superhero world with her appearance in the MCU's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness post-credits scene. While she is yet to appear in a full narrative, her introduction teased multiverse incursions and a possible return from Dormammu. Nevertheless, her close call with the X-Men continues to be one of the franchise's most significant unanswered questions. 6. Sigourney Weaver was supposed to play Emma Frost. Weaver ultimately played Alexandra in The Defenders. Sigourney Weaver nearly brought her sci-fi pedigree to the X-Men universe as Emma Frost. As reported by Superhero Hype, Weaver was in talks to play the powerful telepath and former Hellfire Club member in earlier drafts of X-Men: The Last Stand. At the time, the idea was to introduce Frost as a major antagonist, or at least a morally complex presence, in the increasingly dark narrative of the third film. Weaver, fresh off a string of genre-defining performances in the Alien series, would have lent both elegance and menace to the role. Ultimately, the script changed, and Weaver never joined the X-Men fold. Weaver's unique talent of rapidly switching between tender and formidable would have worked incredibly well for the morally ambiguous. She later played the villain Alexandra in Marvel's The Defenders on Netflix. This gave audiences a taste of what her presence in a Marvel property could feel like. However, Emma Frost remains a lost opportunity. 5. Channing Tatum nearly played Gambit before his solo movie was ultimately deemed a failure. Tatum ultimately played Gambit in Deadpool and Wolverine. Channing Tatum is almost synonymous with Gambit. It's not just that he portrayed the character, but also his enduring, sorrowful connection to it. However, even before his now infamous solo movie was announced and stalled repeatedly, Tatum was nearly cast as Remy LeBeau in X-Men: The Last Stand. Tatum told Uproxx he came really close to landing the part. Unfortunately, the producers removed the role from the overcrowded sequel, ultimately choosing Taylor Kitsch for X-Men Origins Wolverine. Tatum's southern charm and action chops made him a fan-favorite choice, and his passion for the role led to him being attached to a standalone Gambit film for years. Unfortunately, delays, rewrites, and eventually Disney's acquisition of Fox led to the movie's cancellation. Tatum was finally able to don the purple body armor in Deadpool and Wolverine, a film that corrected many of Fox's X-Men missteps. Thrillingly, Tatum has also been confirmed to play Gambit in the MCU's Avengers Doomsday. 4. David Harbour was turned down for The Blob. Harbour ultimately played Red Guardian in Black Widow before gaining worldwide fame as Hopper in Stranger Things and Suiting Up as Red Guardian in the MCU. David Harbour auditioned for a far less glamorous role, The Blob in X-Men Origins Wolverine. Reportedly, Harbour didn't just read for the part, he actually started gaining weight to play the morbidly obese mutant. He was reportedly turned down after executives believed he looked too unhealthy for the role. Harbour joked that he was too fat to play Blob, with the character's large frame created through major prosthetics. Eventually went to Kevin Durand. Harbour later humorously reflected on the experience, highlighting the surreal feeling of rejection due to his resemblance to the character. It all worked out in the end, as Harbour's rise in Hollywood brought him to more prominent roles. Harbour's eventual turn as Red Guardian proved to be a highlight in each of his appearances, including Thunderbolts. Still, his almost debut in the X-Men universe is a strange footnote in the long list of missed casting connections in superhero history. 3. Chris Hemsworth was very close to playing Gambit. Hemsworth ultimately played Thor throughout the MCU. Long before he became Thor, Chris Hemsworth came heartbreakingly close to joining the X-Men universe as Gambit. In an interview with Variety, Hemsworth revealed that he got very close to playing Gambit in X-Men Origins Wolverine. The casting ultimately went to Taylor Kitsch, whose portrayal was met with mixed reviews. Hemsworth noted his disappointment at the time, having struggled to find major movie roles after leaving his television tenure. Interestingly, another role Hemsworth missed out on around this time was the lead in G.I. Joe. This ultimately went to fellow Gambit hopeful, Channing Tatum. Thankfully, Hemsworth landed the role of Thor shortly after, skyrocketing him to fame in the MCU. Had he been cast in X-Men Origins Wolverine, his entire trajectory might have changed. Moreover, the Marvel Cinematic Universe could have lost one of its most iconic heroes. 2. Rosario Dawson was supposed to play Cecilia Reyes. Dawson played Gale in Sin City and Claire Temple in Daredevil. Rosario Dawson is now probably best known in the superhero genre for her portrayal of Claire Temple across Netflix's Defenders shows. Her comic book legacy actually goes back much further to Sin City and its sequel, Sin City, A Dame to Kill For. Years later, Dawson was set to play Dr. Cecilia Reyes in Fox's According to The Hollywood Reporter, Dawson was cast in the role but exited before filming began, with Alice Braga eventually replacing her. Cecilia Reyes is a mutant doctor who serves as a mentor to the younger characters. A sequel would have allowed Dawson to join yet another major superhero property. At the time, Dawson was deeply involved in Marvel's TV universe, and her presence in a Fox film may have complicated branding and scheduling. Still, Dawson's departure from New Mutants was a missed chance to bring her charisma to the X-Men world. Though the film suffered from delays and lukewarm reviews, Dawson's presence could have helped the troubled production. 1. Russell Crowe turned down Wolverine. Crowe ultimately played Nikolai Kravinoff in Kraven. Crowe ultimately played Nikolai Kravinoff in Kraven the Hunter, and also portrayed Zeus in Thor: Love and Thunder. Hugh Jackman was famously cast just weeks before X-Men 2000 began filming, but what many don't know is that the role was offered first to Russell Crowe. According to Digital Spy, Crowe passed on the part and recommended his friend Jackman, who was then a little-known Australian actor. The decision changed superhero history. While Crowe had just come off major success with films like LA Confidential and would soon win an Oscar for Gladiator, he reportedly didn't connect with the role or the idea of signing on for multiple films. In time, his advice to consider Jackman proved fateful. Jackman went on to portray Logan for nearly 2 decades, becoming one of the most iconic comic book actors of all time. Crowe would find his superhero roles as Kraven the Hunter's father in the film Nikolai Kravinoff and as Zeus in Thor, Love and Thunder. He also gave a celebrated performance as Superman's alien father, Jor-El, in the DCEU. Yet, if Crow had accepted the role of Wolverine, the X-Men franchise, and perhaps the entire superhero movie landscape, would have looked very different.